We say we know things, but have you ever stopped to ask, what is knowing? How do we know that we know? Maybe we don't. Maybe knowing itself is just a trick. Think about it. Dogs don't walk around pondering whether they know how to bark. Trees don't label the sun as something they don't know about. This entire thing, knowing, is a human phenomenon. Only humans distinguish knowing from not knowing. But just because we invented a concept called knowing does not mean we understand what it is. You can't prove that you know. Why? Because any proof you offer has to be known. You would just be looping, using knowledge to prove knowledge, using the Bible to prove the Bible. It's circular, it's not solid, and it's not truth. But it feels true. And that right there is what we call knowing, a feeling of certainty, nothing more. When you say, I know this, what you really mean is, I feel like I know this. We confuse sensation for certainty. That's why people will argue, fight, debate, and go to war over what they know or know. And just as quickly, they can be proven wrong by a book, a Google search, a teacher. But what we don't realize is even those books, even those experts, even that Google search was built on other people feeling like they knew, which they at the time, of course, said was just knowing. They didn't call it a feeling of knowing. They called it knowing, which is what you do, which is what we're doing right now. This is not a knock on science, math, logic, or knowledge. Obviously, they're useful. Obviously, very useful. But useful doesn't mean true. A hammer is useful, but that doesn't mean that it reveals the structure of reality. So here's the truth. Knowing is not grounded in some cosmic fact. It's a survival strategy, a belief system. Yes, a belief system, a habit of the mind. We've built civilizations, we've built religions, and we've established scientific laws on something that might just be a very well-polished guess. Where is knowing? Where is it? Where does knowing live at? Does it live in your brain? In your chest? Or is it floating somewhere out there in the universe? Try to find it. What you should notice is that you can't find it. All you'll find is the sensation, the mental tightness, the bodily tension, a voice that says, this is correct. I'm right. You're wrong. That's what you encounter. That's all knowing is, a feeling we believe in. And once we believe in it long enough, we start using it to prove it. That's not logic. That's faith. Faith disguised as logic. Faith disguised as thoughts. Here's a wild idea. Maybe the mind invented knowing, just like it invented language and time. And once it created the illusion of knowing, it believed in it hard enough to make it seem real. The only way that works, however, is if the mind is infinite. Meaning this mind is unlimited, because it would own all of its own limits by way of being infinite, by way of already being everything. It would already be its own limits as well. See, it would have to be infinite enough to loop back and create itself. Infinite enough to make imagination feel like reality. Infinite enough to hide the truth from itself and then forget that it did so. So if knowing can't be verified, and if all knowing is self-referencing, then everything we think we know might be unknowable, including this conversation, including me, and including you. But here's the twist. Even if you say, I don't know, you're still claiming to know that you don't know. That's knowing something. That's the sensation again. You're certain in that case then that you don't know, but all you actually have is the sensation of that. See, that's the loop. That's the mind. That is knowing. The people who've gotten closest to truth in our history were not the ones who knew the most. They were the ones who left knowing behind. We're talking about monks that meditate on mountaintops, mystics, psychedelic explorers, enlightened masters. They stepped off the mental cliff and entered the unknown, where the real insight is. Not in knowing, but in that which is prior to knowing. By ontological necessity, that which is prior to knowing is being itself. If this shook up something in you, this knowing of knowing about knowing, good. Most people are horrified, terrified to question knowing like you and I did here today. But that's exactly where the transformation begins. If you're serious about this work, I offer one-on-one coaching to help you break through the surface and go all the way in, or perhaps get all the way out, because what we're talking about is getting out of the mind. And you can find that at the link below. And if you want more videos like this, subscribe. I post deep dives every week. My goal is to open your mind, disillusion you, and help you to become directly conscious, as I always say, for yourself. You can be guided to realize things for yourself. The truths of the universe are to be realized, not known. We're not here to accumulate more concepts. The internet is filled to the top with concepts. We have libraries filled with books of concepts. You could die 700 deaths and never get through all the concepts. Why not go directly to the truth? Why not go directly to the heart of the matter? Why not go directly to knowing like I did today? And now, ironically speaking, you know what knowing is. It's just your sensation of thinking that you know what knowing is. That's what knowing is. So congratulations, you went direct today. And if you want to go direct some more, check out the link. Here, we're here to wake up. I'll see you guys in the next one.